The Casper is an unbelievably underrated trick in skateboarding. It's not just a silly beginner trick for beginner skaters who haven't yet learned how to ollie. It's not just for Casper slides if you're a street skater. And it's not just for freestylers if you want to jump into the crazy array and depth of variations that you can do with the Casper. Most skaters are introduced to the Casper like this, with the board face down and trying to flip up onto the board. For a lot of skaters, besides a beginner trick like popcorn, that might be the first time you jump off the ground onto the board. However, that's where most skaters leave the Casper, which is why today I want to go over 3 things: what a proper Casper is, how the mechanics of a real proper Casper can help a skater learn other tricks, and how a freestyle skater can push themselves through all kinds of different Casper variations to really show just what kind of beginner to intermediate Caspers can look like. So first, a proper Casper. While street skaters tend to learn the Casper deck down, and so do freestylers, but we kind of go about it a little bit differently. Freestylers will often learn dropping from rail into Casper, or we learn what's called the flop to Casper, where we try to flop over into Casper like that. Those are kind of our 2 basic beginning Casper, intro to Casper tricks. Both of these work great, and everyone starts from the same place, which is typically just trying to learn how to scoop the Casper off of the ground. And what I mean by proper Casper is actually the ideal Casper. Now, the ideal Casper is one that involves never letting your nose touch the ground, never touching the ground, and then this back foot also never touching the ground. So fully in air on the tail or nose of your board, whatever side you're doing the Casper on. That is a proper Casper. Someone like Sean Burke is a great example to look at if you want to see what a very proper, crisp, and pretty much perfect Casper looks like. You're definitely going to see toe touches of mine all over this video. I still struggle with toe touches all the time, though I've gotten pretty good at keeping my nose up. It is all part of the practice, and we all start from just sloppy foot down and nose touchy Caspers and move up into better ones. That's just kind of how we progress. While perfection doesn't have to be everybody's goal, I do think a proper Casper looks just chef's kiss beautiful, and I do strive to get to the point one day where I can do them. But until then, I'm not going to beat myself up because I have accidental toe touches. I'm not filming a professional skate pro video part right now, so maybe one day. Well, not the video part, I mean the Casper. But how can Caspers help beginner skaters with a very specific skill that we might not realize is happening here? The skill and point is actually scooping and how your foot has to move to scoop the board. Caspers are not popped, they are scooped, which means you have to bring your weight up off the board just a little bit, and then use your foot to scoop and push through to make it rotate. And that scoop I have used in tons of different places. Of course, it's really hard to prove this, but I'm convinced that the scoop from the Casper has helped me with rotating tricks like shove-its and varial flips. It has definitely helped me with freestyle tricks like the tail stop, under flip, back to tail stop. And I think it's gonna help me with the nose hook impossible. I also think that it was a huge factor in learning how to pressure flip. And so obviously you don't need to learn how to Casper to do any of those tricks. But what I think of it as is kind of like a building block. If I want to build a tall tower, I need to start with these teeny tiny blocks and more blocks and more blocks and more blocks. And I think that the scoop from this Casper can be the very first block that you put on your little Lego set, if we're talking Legos here. It can be that first block you get really good at if you want to learn other scooped tricks in the future. At least that's how I feel about it. And obviously I'm biased because I love Casper tricks, but when I learned these other tricks and when I was doing stuff like the underflips and when I was doing the pressure flip, I just kept thinking about Caspers. And I couldn't help but notice just how similar and how fundamental, how basic the Casper scoop seemed to be to something like the pressure flip scoop that I've been doing. So that's really what I wanted to emphasize, is that sometimes as I get better, I look back at these beginner tricks, these non-ollie tricks, and I realize like, wow, those were a lot more than silly beginner stuff to play with. Like, they actually could have been very fundamental in a lot of the skills that I have today. And the Casper scoop is one of them. Wow. But I did want to practice Casper, so this was kind of the perfect opportunity. I didn't want tic-tac. Sometimes a rolling fakie Casper is easier for some people because the momentum helps them hold the nose up a little bit better. You can take the half kickflip to Casper and then turn them into Casper slides on things like banks. I just get massive toe drag for those. A lot of toe drag, but that is, you know, like kind of like a Casper fakie backside big spin. And all of that is just to say, don't write the Casper off just yet. It's actually a really, really cool trick in my opinion. Even if you don't want to follow the freestyle path, I think it gives you a phenomenal basis of control over your board, especially when it comes to scooping and kind of learning how to get your weight up off the board just a little bit before you do a trick without getting off too fast or too slow. All of that, you really have to find a really, really good balance to get good at the Casper. And if you do, the skill transfers more than you think to other parts of skateboarding. So I hope you're having a good day. Go out and learn a Casper if you want to. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to chat.